breaking into tears today, describing what she says Senate candidate Roy Moore did to her when she was 16. And tonight, even before this newest accuser, the top Republican in the Senate said, "I believe the women." New charges in the alleged hazing death at Penn State. Authorities say surveillance was destroyed. The FBI has now recovered it and what it shows. New images coming in tonight, the deadly earthquake, more than 400 killed. The scare at the airport here at home, the smoke coming from a bag even before the passenger boards the plane. And the major new health alert tonight involving hypertension, what men and women need to know.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to start another week with you. And we begin tonight with Donald Trump Jr. and his secret correspondence, his messages for months with WikiLeaks before the election. The Atlantic breaking the story tonight, ABC News confirming the communications began during the campaign and continued well after his father was in the White House. Tonight, Don Jr.'s messages, what they reveal about WikiLeaks and their advice for the Trump campaign. And tonight, just in, Donald Trump Jr.'s response. We begin here with ABC's Mary Bruce.
Tonight, the shocking private messages between Donald Trump Jr. and WikiLeaks. ABC News learning that starting at the height of the campaign, Donald Trump's son and WikiLeaks were secretly corresponding. As first reported in The Atlantic, the exchanges with WikiLeaks went on for at least 10 months, starting in September of 2016, just 2 months before the election. The president's son communicating with WikiLeaks, a group the intelligence community believes was used by Russia to spread information about Hillary Clinton and influence the election. Even President Trump's own CIA director has said this.
It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is. A non-state hostile intelligence service often abetted by state actors like Russia.
WikiLeaks had already leaked stolen documents and emails from the DNC when Don Jr. started receiving direct messages from the group on Twitter. All the while, his father proclaiming this.
WikiLeaks, I love WikiLeaks.
2 days after that rally, according to The Atlantic, WikiLeaks wrote, "Hey Donald, great to see you and your dad talking about our publications." Adding, strongly suggest your dad tweets this link if he mentions us, sending a link to their leaked documents. Don Jr. did not respond, but 15 minutes after it was sent, Donald Trump himself tweeted very little pickup by the dishonest media of incredible information provided by WikiLeaks. So dishonest, rigged system. And 2 days later, his son tweeted out that link that WikiLeaks had sent. Sources close to Don Jr. believe that after WikiLeaks first reached out, Don Jr. informed campaign leaders, including Steve Bannon, Kellyanne Conway, and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. For months, Trump Jr. and WikiLeaks kept talking, and though Don Jr. did not engage with all of WikiLeaks' requests, he didn't rebuff them either. WikiLeaks even wrote to Don Jr. on Election Day. Even they seemed to think Hillary Clinton was going to win. Writing, "Hi Don, if your father loses, we think it is much more interesting if he does not concede and spends time challenging the media." But by the end of the night, Trump had won. WikiLeaks' response? Wow.
So let's get to Mary Bruce with us live tonight from Washington. And Mary, as we heard there, Donald Trump Jr. didn't respond to all of WikiLeaks' messages, but The Atlantic is reporting tonight he did respond to some of them. What are you learning on that front? And we're also hearing from Don Jr.'s lawyer tonight.
David, well, first, it does appear at times that this was a two-way conversation. Don Jr. reportedly just weeks before the election asked WikiLeaks what they planned to leak next. And tonight, Don Jr.'s lawyer says they've turned over all of these correspondence to congressional investigators and, quote, have no concerns about these documents. David.
Mary Bruce leading us off tonight. Mary, thank you. We turn next to the developing new headline involving Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore tonight. A fifth woman now stepping forward to accuse him of sexual assault when she was 16. Moore tonight vowing to stay in the race. And this evening, the message she says was written by Roy Moore in her high school yearbook. ABC's chief national correspondent Tom Yamas on Capitol Hill.
Tonight, Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore refusing to drop out, even as a new woman comes forward, accusing him of sexually assaulting her when she was just 16.
My name is Beverly Young Nelson.
Nelson says she met Moore when he was an assistant district attorney and she was a high school student, working part-time as a waitress.
He sat at the counter in the same seat night after night.
She says Moore would flirt with her. One December, she brought her yearbook in, and he asked to sign it. The inscription, she says, right here, "To a sweeter, more beautiful girl, I could not say Merry Christmas," and signed, Love Roy Moore, DA. 2 weeks later, on a cold night, Nelson says Moore offered to give her a ride home after work.
I trusted Mr. Moore because he was the district attorney.
But instead, Nelson says Moore drove her around back.
The area was dark and it was deserted. I was alarmed and I immediately asked him what he was doing. Instead of answering my questions, Mr. Moore reached over and began groping me and putting his hands on my breast. I tried to open my car door to leave, but he reached over and he locked it so I could not get out. I tried fighting him off while yelling at him to stop. But instead of stopping, he began squeezing my neck, attempting to force my head onto his crotch.
She says he tried to pull her shirt off.
I thought that he was going to rape me. I was twisting, and I was struggling, and I was begging him to stop.
Finally, she says, Moore gave up.
And he then looked at me and he told me, he said, "You're just a child." And he said, "I am the district attorney of Etowah County. And if you tell anyone about this, no one will ever believe you."
Only then, she says, did he let her out of the car and raced away. Nelson's allegations come in the wake of a bombshell Washington Post report, which included an interview with a woman who says Moore molested her when she was only 14.
To think that grown women would wait 40 years to come right before an election to bring charges is absolutely unbelievable.
But the Post also spoke to 3 other women who say Moore either dated or asked them out when they were teenagers, something Moore doesn't explicitly deny.
Do you remember dating girls that young at that time?
Not generally, no. If I did, I'm not going to dispute anything, but I don't remember anything like that.
The pressure on Senate Republicans overwhelming. Hours before Nelson told her story, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell calling on Moore to drop out.
I believe the women, yes. I think he should step aside.
Tonight, another senator echoing that call. Senator Graham, if Roy Moore's watching this tonight, what would you tell him?
For the good of yourself, your family, and your state, step aside.
All right, so let's get to Tom Llamas live on Capitol Hill tonight. And Tom, how is Roy Moore now responding to these new accusations today?
David, the campaign has just sent me a statement. They wrote, Judge Moore is an innocent man and has never had any sexual misconduct with anyone. But Roy Moore himself took to Twitter today to attack those senators, calling for him to drop out. Moore tweeting tonight, the person who should step aside is Senator Mitch McConnell. He has failed conservatives. Hashtag drain the swamp. David?
Tom Llamas on the Hill for us. Tom, thank you. We do move on here and to a major development in the death of a Penn State fraternity pledge. Tonight, there are new charges against 17 fraternity brothers after investigators recovered deleted security video. The FBI now recovering that video, and they say it shows Tim Piazza was given 18 drinks in less than 90 minutes before falling down those stairs. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, new charges in the alleged hazing death of 19-year-old Tim Piazza. 12 more former Penn State fraternity brothers are facing charges, along with new charges for 5 brothers already awaiting trial.
We have new evidence. And
that evidence, a frat house surveillance video that prosecutors say shows fraternity brothers giving Tim Piazza at least 18 drinks in just an hour and 22 minutes in the basement.
They claimed, "We don't know what else happened other than what was seen in the upstairs video. And we don't know what happened in the basement." Guess what, guys? Now we know.
Prosecutors say they were led to believe that video camera wasn't working. Instead, they now claim one student intentionally deleted it. The FBI recovering the missing video. That student is now facing a tampering with evidence charge.
Missing from the evidence in this case was what really happened downstairs in that dark basement that night. This video is the missing link.
The court had already seen other videos showing Piazza stumble through the house, at one point falling down a flight of stairs. It would be 12 hours before the brothers call for help. Today's charges range from furnishing alcohol to minors to involuntary manslaughter. The parents of Tim Piazza want families around the country to hear their story.
Talk to your children. Tell them not to get involved in this nonsense.
So let's get to Gio tonight. And Gio, we're now talking about more than 24 students allegedly involved here.
That's right, David. We now have 26 former frat brothers facing charges. Defense attorneys insist those students are innocent. David.
Gio Benitez again tonight. Overseas this evening, there are new images coming in after a powerful earthquake, 7.3 along the border of Iran and Iraq, sending people running for their lives. More than 400 people killed, and here's ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell tonight.
Tonight, a deadly earthquake and the desperate search for survivors. The quake struck near the Iran-Iraq border, sparking terror and panic. People desperately fleeing a shopping mall. A local TV station was live when the terrified guest says, "There's an earthquake here, I have to go outside." And watch this as the quake hits a dam. Giant boulders rain down. More than 400 killed and over 7,000 injured, the deadliest quake in the world this year. People now desperate for aid, tens of thousands homeless without power or water. We got through to an aid worker in Iran. He told me people are scared and cold, but so afraid of more quakes, they're sleeping outdoors.
And that Iranian aid worker, Hamza, telling me that temperatures tonight below freezing, people desperate for tents, for blankets, and although some aid's getting through, it's nowhere near enough. David?
Ian Pannell tonight. Ian, thank you. Next year, President Trump nearing the end of his visit to Asia and overshadowing much of his trip over the weekend, what the president said about Vladimir Putin. Here's ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl traveling with the president.
President Trump says he's made real progress on trade and North Korea. But the final weekend of his trip to Asia was overshadowed by a familiar topic, Russia. It came after his brief conversations with Vladimir Putin in Vietnam. On Air Force One, Trump told reporters they briefly discussed Russia's election meddling. Every time he sees me, he says, "I didn't do that," the president said. "I really believe that when he tells me that, he means it. I think he's very insulted by it, if you want to know the truth." The president even referred to the officials who led the top 3 intelligence agencies when he became president as, quote, political hacks. Hours later, the president was asked directly who he believes, the U.S. intelligence community, which says Putin ordered the election meddling, or Putin, who denies it.
I believe that he feels that he and Russia did not meddle in the election. As to whether I believe it or not, I'm with our agencies, especially as currently constituted with their leadership.
But former CIA Director John Brennan, one of the 3 who the president called a political hack, fired back.
Considering the source of the criticism, I consider that criticism a badge of honor. I think it demonstrates to Mr. Putin that Donald Trump can be played by foreign leaders who are going to appeal to his ego and to try to play upon his insecurities.
Former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper agrees.
He seems very susceptible to rolling out the red carpet.
Here in the Philippines, the president struck up an incredibly warm relationship with the controversial Filipino president, Rodrigo Duterte, somebody who has been condemned by human rights groups for an anti-war campaign where he actually encouraged private citizens to go out and to unilaterally kill drug dealers and drug addicts. The White House says that the president did raise human rights concerns in their conversations, but Duterte's office said the issue of human rights did not come up. David?
All right, John Karl traveling with the president. John, our thanks to you again. Back here at home tonight, the panic at the airport terminal in Orlando, a lithium battery exploding inside a bag before the passenger even boarded the plane. Here's ABC's David Curley tonight.
It was panic. Passengers fleeing an airport security line, a knapsack smoking, some saying bomb. In Russia's TSA officer, Ricardo Perez, who thinks it may be an IED.
If there was an IED, I was already gone, so I might as well just try to save as many as I can. I'm not a hero.
Turns out it was a lithium-ion battery in a laptop which started burning. Lithium batteries are numerous, the FAA showing how cargo containers can explode. In the 3 years since that test, there have been nearly 70 incidents on aircraft. Tonight, the FAA recommending that the International Aviation Authority ban lithium batteries from the cargo hold. Why? Access to those burning batteries to put out the flames. In the cabin, crews can take action. As we saw in Orlando, batteries can ignite without warning. If the FAA gets its way, you will not be able to put these electronic devices in your checked bag, but you will be able to carry them with their lithium-ion batteries into the cabin. David?
David Curley tonight. David, thank you. We turn next this evening to the major new health alert about high blood pressure. The American Heart Association late today changing the guidelines when it comes to hypertension, meaning nearly half of American adults could now be living with what's called the silent killer. Of course, it affects both men and women, so let's get right to ABC's chief medical editor, Dr. Jen Ashton. Jen, always good to have you. And you've got the numbers, what they used to be and what they now are tonight.
Right, let's get right to those numbers. Under the old criteria, someone had high blood pressure if they had a reading of 140/90. Now it's an average reading of 130/80. The point behind this change is the thinking that it's better to treat the cause, in this case high blood pressure, than an effect like a heart attack or stroke.
To bring the number down in advance. But a lot of people watching at home, Jen, are going to say, does this mean I'm going to be on medication?
No, actually not necessarily, and it's estimated that that number will only go up by 2%. So the key here is lifestyle modification, things like exercise and weight loss, losing just 5% of your body weight, lowering sodium intake and increasing potassium with foods like salmon, avocados, and bananas, and limiting alcohol consumption, no more than 2 drinks a day for men and 1 drink a day for women. This can bring down that number by an average of 4 to 11 points, and every point matters.
All right, Dr. Ashton with us tonight. Thank you, Jen. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Monday. We're tracking 2 weather systems. One of them could really affect holiday travel across the country. Rain and snow already coming with the first system, the second one right behind it. Ginger is standing by. Also, the house explosion, several homes also damaged in the neighborhood. And your money tonight. And this question, is Walmart charging more online for some of the very same items that are actually cheaper in the store, and why?
According to Walmart, 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart store. And once inside, Walmart's hope is that you'll buy more and spend more. David?
Lindsay, thank you. When we come back tonight, tracking 2 weather systems, one could really affect holiday travel, and Ginger Z is standing by with the track. To the index of other news and 2 major weather systems, so let's get right to Ginger tonight. She's tracking both of them for us. Hey, Ginger.
Power already being knocked out as we speak, David, in the Pacific Northwest. West Seattle reporting up to 63-mile-per-hour gusts. Portland could see up to 65-mile-per-hour gusts in the high wind warning. That's Storm 1. Storm 2 is the one I want you to watch for the Northeast this weekend. As college students and all of us really start thinking about travel, it's the rain-snow mix and where that line sets up that we will be detailing as we get through this week.
All the way through Saturday there. Ginger, thank you. The powerful house explosion in Canby, Indiana tonight. At least 2 neighboring houses damaged. The fire chief there tonight blaming a gas leak. Luckily, no one was home. When we come back tonight, the surprise at the end of the driveway. It's America Strong.
World News Tonight with David Muir, brought to you by Pacific Life, protecting generations of families for 150 years. That's the power of Pacific.
Finally tonight, America Strong, and when they said strike up the band, they did. Here's Steve Osunsami.
32-year-old Josh Libman of Norcross, Georgia, is having a tough year. In July, he lost part of his left leg to a rare form of cancer and needed rounds of chemotherapy. A nurse in suburban Atlanta saw his GoFundMe page and had an idea.
I reached out to the family and said I would like to take care of Josh and the family through this entire process.
Elaine Levy was by his side in the hospital through every grueling treatment. After he finished this latest round, she called his old high school with another one of her ideas. The entire Norcross High School marching band came to celebrate at Josh's home, marching through the neighborhood and right up to his house. Their message for Josh, you are loved. They came with the victory chant.
We believe that Josh will win! We believe that Josh will win! We believe that Josh will win!
We believe. And tonight, Josh is already winning. Steve Osunsami, ABC News, Atlanta.
We believe that Josh will win.